Hey traders, this is Blake Morrow with Traders Summit. And for the very first time, I've got Dale Pinkert from, I want to say he's from Forex Analytics, but he's got a few different homes. But he's our very own Dale Pinkert with us today. How you doing, Dale?
Great, Blake, and I've loved being part of the team. I've really learned a lot being surrounded by the whole team over the years, and it's one of the high points of my long storied career.
Well, we appreciate that, and we appreciate having you on the team. And we're going to talk. We want to talk about your past and kind of how you got to where you're at now, and all the twists and turns along the way. And this has been long overdue, and I want to tell the listeners at home, if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're seeing us on social media, make sure you give Dale a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our content here at Trader Summit. But more importantly, I really want to tell you this is going to be an interview that is more about Dale and about how he got here, kind of what he's learned and what he's learned from other traders that you've interviewed so many people in the markets. But we're also going to, at the very end, I'm going to talk about like your current views in the market. So make sure you all stick around. Yeah, make sure you all stick around for that. So
Good
Dale, let's. I want to first of all, before we go into like how you and I met, I want to talk about like how you started in the business. Like, what attracted you to the markets early on, and when was early on for you?
Well, I really didn't have an interest in the markets, and I received a stock certificate in a copper company for my bar mitzvah when I was 13. I don't know what happened to it. I went to
That's
college in the
unfortunate.
yeah, I went to college in the middle of the cornfields in DeKalb, Illinois. Little did I know I would enjoy trading the grains. And I had a journalism degree, with speech being my minor. What I really learned in college was how I enjoyed public speaking and the feeling of addressing people and having them focus on what I say and being able to communicate ideas to others. I graduated in 75. It was a recessionary environment, uh, similar to what we're headed into now. We had gas lines, we had high interest rates, and so there really wasn't anything in journalism that would open up for me. When I look back now, I wish I would have been a gopher at a television station because I gravitated towards, give me a microphone and a camera and I light up. But I grew up with a bunch of guys in Skokie whose fathers were involved in the commodity industry. And one of my friends from high school was a clerk on the CME floor. And I was talking to him and saying, well, Dale, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'm looking around and I've had a few offers from insurance companies, which really didn't light my fire at all. He said, well, Dale, why don't you come down to the exchange and I'll get you on the floor and you could check it out. There's a lot of money changing hands there at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. So I said, great idea, Gary. I plan to go down there. And I got on the L. Used to take the L a lot to Cub games and to go downtown from the suburbs. And I got off at what I thought was the Mercantile Exchange. And I'm walking around and I'm seeing all these retail display shops. And I asked somebody, I go, can someone direct me to where the trading floor is? And they go, there's no trading floor here, son. You're at the merchandise mart. So I was trying to get to the Mercantile Exchange, not to the merchandise mart, Blake. So anyway, I got back on the L and finally found it on Jackson and went up to the gallery. And the big markets on the floor back then were meats. The pork belly pit was one of the most active, and big dollar guys were in there, and live cattle, live hogs. And actually, they just started the IMM when I got there, and that was for trading currencies
Yeah.
and gold and gold. So I went around to all the different desks, back then, Dean Witter, every company would have a desk because at that time orders were called in or teletyped in, and then they'd hand it off to a runner, which I was hired to be for Dean Witter. And I would run it into the pit and hand it to the local, hand it to the broker. And that was the beginning of the story, starting off as a runner at the old CME on Jackson. And from there, the story unfolded.
So, and we're talking that was 1975, 1976, somewhere in that time frame.
They were trading currencies on a chalkboard.
Wow.
You see bid offers change and erase, and so that was just the beginning of currency trading. I remember a big event back then was one of your favorite pairs was a devaluation in the Mexican peso. And they have these things called out trades. So when you're on the floor, you're matching, someone's selling, someone's buying, and you think that your trade got done. And sometimes in the hectic nature of the business, someone you think recognized your sell or your buy did not. And it would come in DK, don't know it. So you could walk in as a floor trader the next day being long or short a certain amount of contracts that you weren't planning on. Say you plan on going home flat and you're mainly a day trader. But if the trades didn't clear, you own the trades. And some people came in long the Mexican peso on a devaluation day, and they lost their memberships. Their memberships were up for collateral. So that was the beginning of it. And I made my first trade. A broker that I handed orders to put on a gold short for me when it became legal for Americans to own it again. And it came out at 200 an ounce. And gold dropped from 200 to 100 in about a year or so. So my first trade was a winner. Little did I know that there's a superstition that if your first trade is a winner, it's really not lucky, because then you expect it to be easy.
Right.
Okay, so it turned out to be more than a superstition. But anyway, and from there, I would watch this guy, Frank, charting. He'd be working the teletype machine, and he used Commodity Perspective. I don't know if that predates you. It's a chart book.
It does predate me, actually.
Okay, so there he's updating it, and he's trading silver and updating it. And I look at these charts and I go, wow, those are cool. It's almost like there's patterns, and you could almost predict where the price is going to go. So I took a course at the Merck in technical analysis, and our textbook was Edwards and McGee, Technical Analysis of Stock Trends.
I can almost reach my book from here, but yes,
okay.
That's like the Bible, right? It's the Bible.
Right, and that's it. And a lot of it in there is stuff I still use. And then I passed my Series 3. I always wanted to be a member. I was waiting to be discovered, but I'm not the most patient guy. A lot of my friends I went to school with, they were set up. They came from wealthier families, and they were back to have a seat. They had condos downtown and 450 SLs. I was a runner on the floor, making 400 a month, living at home with mom after graduating from college. So I decided I would just become a broker. So the guy who taught the course in technical analysis sponsored me to be a broker, and I took my Series 3 and went upstairs to handle his book, and was a Series 3 broker for many decades.
So eventually you made your way into being an introductory broker. Is that correct?
Yeah, introducing broker. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so tell us a little bit about that side of the business for you.
Okay, so before I became an IB, I worked at different brokerage houses. I had a very good run at Thompson McKinnon, and it's nice to be the only commodity broker at a stock firm, because a lot of the brokers didn't want to deal with that kind of business, and they'd refer people to me. We'd work out the splits. But one of my clients at Thompson McKinnon wanted to go into business with me, so we started an introducing broker. And so I had a few different IBs. And it was great because, mainly at a brokerage firm, you'll get just a percentage of a payout of the commission. And these were days when it's hard to believe nowadays where people would pay $60.
Yeah,
per
commissions were
contract.
really, there's a lot of juice back then, right?
Yeah, it's a round turn. So, you would split it with the house, but as an IB, you would have a clearing rate. And if you charged norm or retail or even discounted, your profit margin was even better. You didn't have to go to sales meetings. You were more independent. So having an IB was a good experience for me. And but when the internet started coming around, it destroyed really the whole broker model for being a full service guy.
Sure.
What people ended up wanting, and they want even more now, was discount prices but full service. So years later, I had to reinvent myself into more of a analyst, content provider, and walked away from the brokerage.
That's, what a transition, and a tough transition is at that. And the internet, as it developed, in the late 90s and well, early 90s but really started to come into its own, late 90s, early 2000s, really changed the way a lot of us has done business.
Globex.
Globex, and just trading instant, a short order execution systems, or the SOS trading, and
SOS bandits.
Myself, I was a SOS bandit, but trading is from fractions to decimalization really changed. That was probably like the biggest impact for me. But all of this is all evolved around technology, and technology really brought in a lot of new business, but it really antiquated a lot, such as yourself and what I was doing too, to a certain extent, really did for what we were accomplishing at that point. So let's go back to like being more of a content provider, and this kind of brings us onto the heels of when you and I met, like pretty close. I remember I was one of the, and you were too, one of the earlier adopters of Twitter. I think if I look at my Twitter thing, I think I've been doing it 12, 13 years, maybe. So you're probably about the same, right? And I remember the first time I saw Forex Stop Hunter, I'm like, man, you were one of the first people I followed, probably within the first 20 or 30, I would say, somewhere in that neighborhood. I'm like, look at this guy. He's gunning for everybody's stops. He's got to be kind of cool. So I think we followed and liked a few of our things, and I liked what you were putting out there. But what happened as you started on Twitter and in social media?
Well, let me just backtrack a little bit. The Stop Hunter came from my experience on the floor, because when I was a runner, I noticed that any order that had STP at the end of it, the brokers put in a separate deck, and they were very interested in it. And I knew where, the block of stops were. And you could actually hear when they ran stops, there'd be an audible roar on the floor. And they put up on the board fast market, which means the broker's not held to any particular price. You can't really challenge the price of your fills in fast market chaotic conditions. And then I also noticed that after the roar died down, that it ended up being some type of inflection point, at least for an hour, sometimes for a day, and sometimes even longer. So I really came up with that name because many locals made their living off of stops. They knew where they were. They'd get long into buy stops, and when the buy stops were elected, it gave them the liquidity to liquidate their longs because there's new buying coming in, and the reverse for sell stops. So Stop Hunter came from my early origins on the floor, and the roar on the floor.
And I think that's funny. I think a lot of people that are new to trading really have a hard time understanding that when you see these pools of liquidity, and that you've got the money, you're the broker you're the house with a big chunk of cash, you can run those stops, get on the other side of it, let those stops trigger. You're buying as they're selling, and then you reverse the whole market going the other direction. I think a lot of people really don't understand that, but I knew it, and that's why I started following you. And I thought, I was like, man, this guy's got to be cool. So we started, following each other on social media at least 10, 12 years ago, something like that. But tell us how it's evolved since then. So what did you do? What were you doing about 10 years ago?
Okay, so I was always interested in media, as I say, from my early background, and communicating and verbalizing my ideas, and teaching or showing people what I was thinking and doing. And so at that time, I was always on this side of the mic, like, because I would self-promote, I was on many different radio and television stations, even the old FNN, few appearances on CNBC. I was doing webinars like people still do on FX Street. And I came up with the concept of who better to ask the questions of an expert than someone who has been asked the questions, so that I knew that what I was asking would be things that traders would want to know, instead of just being someone with no background in the markets doing an interview and just letting the guests just take over and ramble on for 3, 4, 5 minutes, and not really getting to important critical things that might be actionable for people. So I approached FX Street with the idea, and they went for it, and that was the beginning of the live analysis room on FX Street, where I invited you to be a guest. And I remember our first interview, and I go, oh, this guy's a Marine. And I asked you the question, I go, Blake, do you ever get flat? And you go, nope, I never get flat. I'm always have something on, always have my toe in the market. And I go, wow, this guy really is an aggressive animal. And I'm going to pay attention to what he's doing, because personally, I even needed more the time of not having be attached to a position or concerned about an outcome. But yeah, that was our first interview. And the key question that still sits with me, Blake, do you ever get flat the market? No way. I'm always in. That was your answer.
It keeps me engaged, man. I don't even care how small the position is. As long as I got something running, it keeps me like looking at quotes. But that's funny that you remember that. I'll tell you, when I was at that time, I was with MB Trading and the Wise Trade Group, and we were just getting taken over by Ally Financial, and at the same time, concurrently starting Forex Analytics. And I knew, since we did the Morning Edge, which was running when you were doing your FX Street shows, once a week or so, I would invite somebody. So I wasn't as active as you are as far as interviewing people, but I do it like once a week. But I knew when we started Forex Analytics that what I wanted to do was make sure that we did interview somebody on a daily basis. And I couldn't think of anybody better to do it than you. And that's when, we asked you to join the team. We hadn't even finished developing Forex Analytics yet. And you'd been with another group, but we're so happy that you've been with us since pretty much day one. I mean, well, you were with us the first day we started broadcasting, and pretty much you were our first man on board on our team. And we are so happy to have you part of our the Forex Analytics organization. And I feel that we're blessed because you talk to so many people. And so tell us, as listeners here, what's it like to talk to so many people that you've seen on, Bloomberg, CNBC, you've read their books. What do you take from these folks, each one of them that you talk to, and what do you give back to the community?
Okay, well, as there are many ways to skin a cat, and everyone has their own style. And to me, it's been a great opportunity to talk to people that I've admired for a long time and haven't had a chance to actually meet them. Even though it's virtual, you do develop relationships with them. I feel I've learned some things. Some people, one thing I can say is within 5 minutes, I know if they know. Okay, so I can tell, and
What you mean there is if somebody's BSing or not, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
right. So I've learned some of these things. People I follow and their opinions and forecasts hold different weights to me because I interview people much more than once. I have a rotation. It changes because some people drop off, and I'm always looking to bring people in. And one thing I've learned is that the most popular um, people are not always the best in the market. They may be the best at marketing, but not the best in the market. So I like to find, um, hidden gems and unpolished diamonds and people that don't have a lot of followers. But I'll watch your tweets. I'll see the charts they put up, and to be able to lift them up and give them some exposure. And I think that we have helped some people actually launch careers, reinvigorate their careers by giving them that visibility. And I want our community to learn from people that have been doing it a long time, because one of my expressions is you can't learn experience, but you can learn from the experience. So it's been rewarding and win-win for everybody. They get visibility, we get great content, our community becomes more edified, and we're providing a public service, in my view, by doing Face for free for the last 6 years, open to everybody to come in and learn and become better, because iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, and this is going to be dated. So obviously, if you're watching it today, or watching it right now, we may have recorded this 6 months ago, or maybe even longer. But for example, you interviewed Art Hogan today, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I know he wasn't on Face; he was one of your other interviews, but you brought Art onto Face before. I mean, what kind of value does that bring to the everyday trader that listens to our Face programs, or even one of the interviews that you might do with another organization? But what kind of value does that bring to the individual trader at home?
Well, a guy like Art, and I told him that I followed him before he had a gray hair. I had a gray hair from when I was, 22, but when he was younger. And if you listen to his interview, he really cuts through a lot of the noise. He doesn't hedge his views on the market. He explains them clearly, what he thinks. And I believe that gives clarity to the people that are listening to consider. I say to people, have an open mind. It'll keep your account open.
That's a great saying, Dale. It
Yeah.
really is. Well, first of all, I just want to make sure everybody listening knows that you are, on our team. You are very valued, if not the most valued person on our team that has joined the Forex analytics community. We love having you part of the team, because your experience speaks volumes, and what you gather as far as intelligence for our community has always been, it's always been awesome. But let me ask you this, with all of this experience and with everything that you've learned and everything you take in, what would you say is probably the most valuable piece of information? I know this is a big question, but what has been like the most valuable thing that you've learned from the investment community of professionals that you interview? Would you think? I mean, and it does, and you maybe even say a couple of things. Does it have to do with market timing, or does it have to do with discipline, or what do you think are some of the more important messages that you've gotten over the last, years of interviewing people?
Okay, well, I always ask people how long it took them, Blake, before they made breakthroughs and were able to earn a living doing this, because a lot of people ask me, Dale, can I trade for a living with 10,000? And I go, yes, if you want to live beneath an underpass. But most answers that I get from guys that have made it, most of them have blown up accounts, okay, and admit it. And people that don't admit it, most likely have been very fortunate, or they're BSing,
Right.
because people make the step on landmines. But the average answer that I get is about 4 years, which is similar to what would be, say, an undergraduate degree in high school, in college, and the number of years you would have to spend as a journeyman or as an apprentice in a trade before you become a master. And so we all talk about being patient in the market. I tell people you also have to be patient with yourself, because like I was saying, you can't learn experience. It comes through time. It only happens with the passing of time and living through adversity. And that's something that's an individual journey. So be patient with yourself. It's going to take some time. And then I would quote what Jack Schwager said during an interview. I asked him the exact question you asked me, and his answer is, find a trading style that suits your personality. So no one can make that discovery but you. On your journey, are you a scalper? Are you better at taking positions and have the temperament to hold them? Are you a day trader so you could just let go and it's a new day tomorrow? And what time frames are most effective for me in that type of trading? What markets and instruments do I have more of an affinity to than others? So I would say that's a very important thing that Jack said, because no one can tell you what you should be. You have to find out what you could be.
That's really well said, Dale. And going back to like the time that it takes, I think that's an important acknowledgement that most traders need to really understand. Like just from a personal experience, I mean, it was about 2.5 years before I got lucky. And
Yeah.
to be honest, when I got lucky, it didn't make me any more smarter. It just made me a lot wealthier.
Made you money. Yeah.
Yeah, it made me money. And then I had money, and I still had a lot to learn to become proficient in what I was doing as a day trader. And then going back to like what you just said about knowing thyself, if you will, understand,
Right.
how you're going to conquer the markets. Like at the Forex analytics community, we have a community of traders, and people are always posting their ideas and what they're thinking, but everybody's got
Great
different time
community.
frames.
Yeah.
But everybody's got different time frames, right? So you learn, oh, this trader XYZ is kind of more like me, and ABC over here is, they're doing their own thing. But you find your own rhythm in the markets and people that might jive with your way of thinking, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's a right way or a wrong way. Correct?
Yeah. Jack also said a lot of people think they could read a book about trading and just be able to go out and do it. And he compared that, can you read a book about brain surgery and then go out and perform it?
Right.
So, it's the same thing. It really, you have to be patient. I tell people that, you don't trade live. When you start trading live, you trade micros, and so that there is a difference between, even if you have a micro on, Blake, there's still money on the line, and there's a different type of psychology when you're just trading a demo, or in our era, it was paper trading.
Yeah.
So, but when there's money on the line, your psychology changes. I don't care if it's $10 or $1,000. It's still
100%.
money.
Yeah.
So go small for a long time.
There
For
you
a
go.
long time. Yeah.
All right. Well, Dale, I want to thank you for spending this time with the Traders Summit community. It's been a long time coming. It's something that should have done, like I said, a long time ago. But if for some reason, if a trader's listening into you, and this is the first time they're listening to Dale Pinkert, how do they follow your work? I mean, how do I follow Dale Pinkert, you, the man?
Okay. Well, you could catch me every day at Face. I don't think I've missed too many days in the last 6 years. And,
You have not.
we start at 8 a.m. EST every day. Myself and the whole team batting the ball around before an interview. Like Blake said, my handle at Forex Stop Hunter. And recently, I'm providing some analysis for at TradeGate Hub. And that's where people could find me.
Awesome. Well, it's real easy on Twitter, guys. If you're not following at Forex Stop Hunter, you should be, because like I said, it was one of my first follows, 10, 12 years ago or whatever, however many years it was. Dale, it's been a pleasure of mine to be one of your colleagues, and B, to be able to work with you every day and soak in your knowledge. And I hope that, those traders at home that have been watching this really got something out of today. So thanks for joining us today, Dale.
Well, you know what my tagline is, Blake. Don't just count your pips, count your blessings. And I consider being part of your company and working with all of the guys a blessing in my life. And also proves to me when I say surround yourself with traders better than you, I have become a better trader being surrounded by the Forex Analytics team over the last 6 years.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being part of it, Dale. And we'll do this again. I don't want this to be a one and done thing. We should do it again sometime and get some more of your current views in the market.
All right, Blake.
All right. Take care, Dale.
Thanks for having me on, buddy.
Thanks for being here.
All right.
Hey traders, Blake Morrow here. Thanks for stopping by our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also click the bell notifications so you do not miss any of our market-related trading analysis from some of the leading industry experts. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you in the next video.